RBAC, Role-Based Access Control, otherwise known as the bane to many engineers' existence. Yes, it is a pain in the butt to do, specifically with Kubernetes. Now, RBAC is, simply put, it's your authorization. It's your permissions. It's what you can do once you're authenticated to a Kubernetes cluster. Can you just view pods? Can you create pods? Can you just list pods? Can you describe pods? And that's just pods. It's not all Kubernetes resources. So you have to create these policies and create these permissions for every Kubernetes resource. And you typically do it in YAML if you are utilizing the Kubernetes RBAC API, which is available in the core API group. Now, what I will say with Kubernetes RBAC is it is incredibly granular. I mean, you can literally specify, I want this person to only have the ability to list pods, and that's it. Not read the pods, not describe the pods, no other Kubernetes resource. You can get incredibly granular, which is awesome. But the flip side of that is, what if you have multiple teams, multiple service accounts, multiple users? This can get incredibly cumbersome, and that's typically why you'll see an OIDC solution utilized, OpenID Connect. That's what OIDC stands for. So for example, Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory has the ability to utilize RBAC, and it has the ability to utilize authentication for your users and your teams, because Kubernetes RBAC is only for authorization / permissions. It is not for authentication. You have to figure out another authentication protocol. There's not one built into Kubernetes. So again, a lot of engineers will go with the OIDC route. However, you can do the same thing within Portainer, relatively straightforward, and you can, create one user and attach that user to any Kubernetes cluster you want via manage access. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that within Portainer. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what RBAC is going to look like within Kubernetes versus in Portainer. Now again, Kubernetes doesn't have a native approach to specify users and teams. So you would have to either create a service account like this, or you would have to have another authentication solution to create users, or, and I don't even really recommend this fully, but you can create Linux users. Now, depending on where you're running Kubernetes, that could or could not be possible. But if you create and manage users via Linux users, you can utilize them via RBAC. However, that's really not a good practice because it's incredibly cumbersome, and I haven't personally seen production environments do that for an incredibly long time, if ever. So first you would create your user or your service account, and then you would specify a policy. So for example, in this case, we're specifying a cluster role. And what that means is this role will be available throughout the cluster, not just on a particular namespace. And then you can, for example, set your resources. So specify the Kubernetes resource here, in this case pods, and then you say what this role can do. This role can get watch list, so pretty much read only. Then you would combine them all. You would bind them with a cluster role binding. So you would specify your service account, and then you would specify the role. Now, this doesn't seem too bad when you only have one. However, if you have multiple RBAC permissions and users to manage and stuff, imagine how cumbersome this can get. Imagine if you have 20 service accounts and 50 users. You're going to have to create this YAML configuration for each one. Very cumbersome. Straightforward, allows you to have a lot of granularity, but again, very cumbersome. So let's see how this is done in Portainer. Now I have my Kubernetes environment up here, and all I have to do is just go to users, create a new user, let's say test user, give it a password. Oh, we already got test user, we'll do test user 12, and then I'm going to click create user. So at this point we have this test user 12 here. Now if I go to environments, I can click on manage access, and then from here I can choose test user 12, and then I can choose what role I want to give test user 12. So maybe read only, create access, and that's it. That's literally all I have to do for my users. And not to mention, let's say I go to environments again, and I just click on my local Kubernetes environment, and I click manage access, and I select another user. I can use the same user, or rather I can take the same user and give them access to multiple environments in the same location. I don't have to create more YAML configurations for each cluster. Everything is managed right in the UI here with this managed access button.